Now, coming to other type of perceptions which are there in the society, some of these also again relate to the atrocities of Muslim kings in the history, and these atrocities are described in two forms. One is that they imposed jizya to see that the Hindus get converted into Islam. Because jizya is imposed, they will try to flee away from Hinduism, become Muslims so that they don't have to pay jizya. Now this is again a wrong argument. We must point out, we must understand that all the Muslim kings did not impose jizya. It is only some of them who impose this type of a jizya. Number two, if we see that people's religion is not so cheap that to avoid a particular taxation, they will go away from that religion. The third point, if we see that if people become Muslims, they have to pay zakat. Zakat is 2.5% of one's earnings, while jizya was 1.25% of one's earning. So this is a totally wrong argument. This was one of the way of taxing of the people by the kings who were ruling at a particular time. No more motive should be attributed to it. Now here we see why this perception has come to stick. Most of these perceptions related to history of the medieval India, they have come to stay because of the communal historiography which was introduced by British. In this communal historiography, history is presented as if kings were ruling for the sake of religion, while the fact is that kings were primarily ruling for power and wealth. Another misperception which is held at a larger level is about the number of wives which the Muslims have. Now this misperception, whatever be its roots, today it is very clear that the adverse sex ratio does not permit any person from any religious community to have more than one wives. You must have heard that sex ratio is a number. What does it mean? It means number of females per 1,000 males. Now this sex ratio in India is 932. It is different in different communities. Amongst Muslims, this sex ratio is 936. So please tell me, if there are 1,000 males and 936 females, how can one male have 4 wives? Now this point came up from the history, from the origin of Islam. We know that Islam is a word which means peace by submission to the will of Allah. Islam itself stands for the word peace, and this word peace came into being because at that time there was lot of communal strife, lot of communal violence in the society. Different tribes were fighting with each other in the name of their own gods, and that time Muhammad Sahab said that there is only single God and we should not fight with each other. At that time, because of the multiple fights amongst the tribes, the number of females in the society was very high, as there were a lot of people getting killed in the wars. So at that time, because it was a feudal time, it was a time of landlordism. During the kingship, we know that the male domination, the patriarchal norms, they permitted the powerful men to have more than one wives. But today, in most of the Islamic countries, if we see, the Islamic countries where there has been freedom, where women have been able to enjoy the rights of freedom, in those countries, one of the major demands which they have been successful in achieving is abolition of polygamy. Many Muslim countries around and all that, the women have successfully achieved this social reform which was very much needed. The reflection of this comes in the Uniform Civil Code. Now this Uniform Civil Code, which is different for different religions, needs a lot of reform. But reform is possible only if the community feels at peace. If the community feels threatened from outside because of violence, the process of reform just cannot take place. That's why this at theoretical level, at the level of the law, at the level of the personal law, this concept of 4 wives for Muslims pertains, though in practice this is as good or bad as amongst any other religious community. Similarly, we see that people say, oh, these Muslims have so many children, they create so many children, and because of this they may exceed the population of Hindus and may become a major community in India, converting this into a Muslim nation. In year 2001, there was population census, and in this population census, some analysts, they took a criterion of number of children per family, means number of children per couple, number of children between one husband and wife. And this data was taken for 3 North Indian states of UP, Rajasthan and Bihar. And this data was compared to the 3 southern states, and that is Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. I am sure you can guess that the number of children per couple are lesser in the southern states. And it is very easy to guess why the number of children is less in the southern states. Because the number of children is related to the level of education, number of children is related to the social development of a community, and because in India there is a widespread poverty, widespread ghettoization amongst Muslim community, so sometimes we can find that many of those families who are poorer, who are illiterate, will have more number of children. This is not only amongst Muslims, even amongst many a tribal and even amongst many a Dalit, we see that the number of children is more. What is the reason? Because apart from other things, poor people also think that in case their child falls sick in a younger age, and if they don't have means to spend for their health care, what will happen to their children? Second point they regard as more the hands, more of them can earn and sustain the family. These two things go when the poor people are thinking about the size of their family. Now, as far as increase in the total number of Muslims is concerned, let me give you statistics again, that only amongst 2 communities the percentage of population has gone up, and both these communities are the poorest of poor in this country. First of these is Adivasis, the scheduled tribes, and second is the Muslims. Now, scheduled tribes at the time of independence, they were 7.5%. Today they are 8.5%. Now, Muslims at the time of independence were 11.6%. Today they are 13.4%. Now, here there is an additional factor as far as the Muslim population is concerned, and that is because from 1991 onwards, the population of Kashmir has also been included in the total population, and that has increased the apparent population of Muslims. This has not much to do with the overall rapid rise in the number of Muslims, though comparatively, slightly, the number of children per family amongst the poorer section of Muslims is still slightly higher. Now, to this also relates lot of other things which are related to the Muslim community. People say that they are dirty, they are retrograde, etc., etc. Now, these are the things which one wants to see at a broader social level. It is very true that many Muslims have been forced to live in certain communities, certain areas in the society. Now, why this has been happening? This has been happening because of the communal violence. As I pointed out, the number of victims of the communal violence, amongst them the number of Muslims is more. So because of that, there is a phobia, there is a fear, and Muslims, especially the poorer sections, try to go to those areas where the number of Muslims is already higher. I'll give you 2 examples here. One example pertains to that of Mumra near Bombay. Mumra is a suburb of Bombay. In Mumra, the population of Muslims in 1991 was 80,000. 92-93, ghastly Mumbai violence took place, and in 2001, when the population number was counted in Mumra, they found that the population of Muslims in Mumra has gone up to 7 lakhs. We can understand this population increase is not because of production of more number of children. This is because of the internal migration which is a process after every ghettoization. At the same time, we come to see Gujarat. In Gujarat again, 2002, very bad violence, and after that bad violence which properly be called as a pogrom or a genocide. After that, now today, over 5 lakh Muslims are living in ghettos. The second point about these ghettos is that the official facilities of the government, the official facilities of the municipality are not reaching these areas. The government totally turned its face away from the plight of the Muslims, from the plight of those who were the victims of communal violence. Because the government refused, the state refused its responsibility to take care of its citizens, the Muslim communal groups stepped in. And today in Gujarat, 5 fundamentalist Muslim groups are helping these victims of the communal violence. Now I will like to ask you, if these are the only groups who are helping the Muslim victims of the communal violence, what type of ideas these Muslims will be getting? Will they not be becoming more conservative? Will they not be becoming more orthodox? Will the hold of Maulanas and other retrograde elements become stronger amongst these sections of society? So who is responsible for these tendencies developing amongst the Muslims? Is it Islam? Is it by their choice? Or is it the social political situations whereby they are being pushed to the margins of the society? Now, precisely with this point comes that, look, these Muslims are so backward. They put lot of control on their women. Now, partly when one sees at Muslim women, one sees that their social progress is not as much as it should be. Here I must point out that even amongst other religious communities, women are yet to achieve gender parity, gender equality. Amongst Muslims, the problem is twofold, because we have seen communal violence is a very big lacuna. Communal violence is a big bane to the Indian society. Because of communal violence, we know that men suffer a particular type of victimization. But females, the women, are double victims of this violence. One, it is a physical violence. Second, this physical violence, sexual violence, this leads to the type of trauma because of which there is a deeper fear psychosis of coming into the society and trying to raise their voice for equality, trying to raise their voice for parity as such. And this is what has been observed by many women's rights activists. Now, when we talk about dietary habits and violent tendencies, this is one of the topics which has been researched by the medical scientists over a period of years. People are generally saying that Muslims are violent, Muslims are aggressive because they are non-vegetarians. Now, man's, woman's violent tendencies are not because of food. They are because of their social upbringing. They are because of the situations in which they grow. It is violent. Being violent is a psychological phenomenon. And let's see that in whole world, over 80% of the population is non-vegetarian. So how can we say that all the 80% population in the world is aggressive or violent? This is totally wrong. It is in India that certain religious streams guided by a particular politics are trying to promote a aggressive type of vegetarianism. When I say aggressive vegetarianism, they are very strict and strong about being vegetarian, but they don't bother whether human beings are being killed or human beings are not being killed. Because our tendencies, how do we understand this? There are multiple factors. One of the factors which also we have to keep in mind, that the definition of being vegetarian or non-vegetarian also varies from areas to areas. The biggest example is that of seafood, fishes, prawns and other things. Some of the people regard that eating them is a part of vegetarianism. Others will regard that even eating an egg is being a non-vegetarian. So these understandings are again very different in the whole part of the world. As we were talking about the ghettoization, I told that the population of places like Mumra went up infinitely. The population of places like ghettos, borders, Gaza strips, which have come up in Gujarat, there the number of people has suddenly gone up. And I also pointed out that the civic amenities have not kept pace with the increasing population. I want to ask you a question. Now, if the number of people goes up, civic amenities remain the same, water supply remains the same, and the hygienic conditions are not improved, what will be the type of life in which these people will be forced to live? Obviously, their hygienic levels and cleanliness cannot be as good as in other sectors of the society. So this fact is true, but it is again related to another painful fact about which we have been talking so far. Now, coming to this whole business of Muslims are foreigners, they are more patriotic to Pakistan, they burst crackers when the Pakistani team wins. All this again needs to be understood in a proper historical perspective. I must point out that the Muslims of India are as much Indians as anybody else. Those people who came from outside were small in number. The majority of people who became Muslims were the people from this country who embraced Islam for different reasons. Coming to cricket, it is true that some Muslims, they feel happy, they show their joy when Pakistani team wins. But it is also sure that majority of the Muslims do not do so. Before coming to this point, I want to raise the issue that can we test one's nationalism on the strength of when one becomes happy, on the strength of cricket and all that? This is not the right way. One's nationalism should be judged by one's faith in the Indian Constitution and the values which are achieved out of the freedom struggle movement. All those people who were in India on 15th August 1947 are Indians. They are the legal Indians because that is our birthday as Indians, 15th August 1947. Then why some small section of Muslim feels disgruntled and shows its joy when Pakistan wins? Please note that in Indian cricket team also there are many players, they have been consistently many Muslim players who contributed immensely to the victory of Indian team. Now, but there are some Muslims who are very dissatisfied because of the social situation, because of the economic situation. You all must be knowing that recently Sachar Commission report came, and Sachar Commission report points out that in India all the communities have made some or the other progress during last 60 years, barring only one community. And what is that community? That is Muslims, whose condition has either remained same or has slightly deteriorated over the period of years. Now, I want to ask you, if a section of them feels dissatisfied, disgruntled and economically marginalized, will they not feel one with some of our neighbor, to which people always taunt them, oh, you are a Pakistani, you are somebody like that? This is where the real crux lies. We don't see that people really know what is happening in Pakistan. I must tell you, at the time of partition, some affluent Muslims did go to Pakistan. All the Muslims did not go to Pakistan because they had a choice, but they made the choice to live in India. The average Muslim lived in India. But over a period of 60 years, as their economic condition is worsening, as their physical security is worsening, some of them may be getting a feeling, oh, had our grandfathers, grandparents went to Pakistan, probably we might have been much better off. Now this is like distant drums sounding very good, but there is no truth in that also. But there is a truth in their frustration, and this frustration is exhibited at that particular time.